Hey, welcome to the customizable draft tool. It's completely dynamic. You can manipulate not only the scoring rules, but you can manipulate the projections themselves. My name is Sean. Let me introduce myself. I write every single year. I write the Fantasy Football Almanac and Draft Guide. Here's the 2020 version. I also assist in the publication of the Roto Solo Draft Guide. I provide the math and the statistics behind that. It's a fantasy football magazine and daily fantasy focused kind of projection tool, the Roto Solo Guide. And what I do when I create the math for that is this is a little bit different than other customizable tools out there. I pull in data resources from like the five biggest data providers for fantasy football. So you can think of it as this way, right? If you go to a website because you like the fantasy football stats and you like the projections and you like to read up, I go to that website and I pull that data and I put it in to a spreadsheet and I create a consensus stat line. It's not like ESPN stats. It's not Fantasy Pro stats. I pull a bunch of stuff in there and create an average for every player to give you a consensus projection that you can then change if you disagree with that projection, and you can change and manipulate the scoring rules. Now, all the other customizable tools out there, what they do is they give you their projections and show you how your scoring rules will be impacted by their projections. This is different. Not only can you do that with this tool, but you can go that extra step and change the projections themselves. So I want to show you how easy this is to use. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, so here we go. Okay, so what you can see right here is this is basically the scoring dashboard, and these are the point scoring rules that I'm clicking through right here. So you see for a quarterback, every 25 passing yards equals 1 point. And this 0.04 is basically, that's how many you get per yard. So you can see if your league, you get 50, every 50 yards is 1 point. You can just enter in 50 here, and you can make the change. I'm just going to revert back. Similar rushing yards. Some leagues are 15. You get 1 point for every 15 yards. So you can type in the yardage there, and you can make any single change. And what that does, and again, I'm going to revert back to the standard rules here, but all of this, all these scoring metrics here for kicker, defense, special teams, running back, wide receiver, so on and so forth, all of these you can completely edit and customize. But let me show you the position-specific things, right? Because what I do is, like I said before, kind of in that intro there, is I pull in data. I pull in data from all the big resources. So you can think of this, think of it this way: is if you go to a website because you like their fantasy football content, I pull in their data and I create a consensus ranking. And this consensus ranking is based on consensus statistics. So all these you see here, these completions, these yardage, 300-yard games, touchdowns, interceptions, so on and so forth, these are based on a consensus projection. They're not something that I do. I just create the consensus. So you can see Lamar Jackson here. Let's say, Lamar Jackson, the number one quarterback in these rankings here. Let's say you think that Lamar Jackson might not rush this year. Can you believe this projection for him, by the way? 1,247 yards projected. This is a consensus projection. That's a lot. I personally don't think it's likely that Lamar Jackson's going to run for 1,200 yards. That's a crazy total. We don't see that historically. I know he's a special quarterback, but I think that he'll still run for a lot. But let me just say he'll run a little bit less. Maybe he'll run for 800 yards, okay? And because of that, let's say, and by the way, when I make this change, see how his point total went from 400 down to 355 right off the bat. But let's say, okay, he's going to run for a little bit less, but maybe he'll have more passing yardage, or passing touchdowns, I should say. So I'm going to enter in 30 here because that's how I feel he's going to be able to eclipse 30 touchdowns this season. Now, when I hit the enter key, just keep an eye out for his point total right here. I'm just going to go ahead and hit the enter key now. Look at this point total, and there you go. And you can see his point projection went up when I do that. And again, since I think he's going to pass for more yardage, let's say he's going to pass for, maybe I think he'll hit 4,000 this season. So I'll put that in and see how his score basically changes because of that, right? And I'll do another one. Let's say Deshaun Watson, because he lost DeAndre Hopkins this offseason, maybe I don't think he'll throw for 25 touchdowns. Maybe he'll throw for 20, right? And this is just an example. I do think he'll hit that projection, but just as an example. So you can see that the scoring metrics change as you change the projections here, these consensus projections. And that's what I mean by it's completely customizable for you, not only your league's point scoring rules, but also the projections themselves. So you can enter in your own projections if you want to. This tool is built for you. And all you have to do when these are changed, you see that some of the rankings start to get jumbled up now. All you have to do is click, and this works on Microsoft or Apple. I'm running off of iOS right here. For Apple, I hit the sort descending, but you can sort largest to smallest. in Microsoft, and there you go. It sends you the top quarterbacks based on the projections that you put in. And I have all these built out too for wide receiver, for running back, wide receiver, tight end, and a flex. So I'm just going to gravitate over here to the flex spot. This includes wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, and everybody. And it shows you kind of a point distribution based on, again, consensus projections. But let's say Christian McCaffrey, right? Everybody, he's the consensus #1 pick, I guess, at this point. And you see Michael Thomas, in terms of projection, is actually the #2 rated player, but you don't see him rated that highly on most kind of draft boards, right? Because usually it stacks running back heavy. But let's say you're a little bit worried about Christian McCaffrey because he has a new offensive coordinator. Maybe they won't utilize him as much. Maybe they're going to pass a little bit more to wide receivers and a little bit less to him. Maybe you don't think that he's going to be able to accumulate 867 receiving yards, right? So let me just say, okay, receiving yards, maybe Christian McCaffrey, maybe he'll get something like 500 yards. I think he'll do more than that, but just for example. And once I enter in 500 yards here, and again, pay special attention to the point projection, all right? I'm going to hit the enter key on my keyboard, and his projection goes down. But let's say you think he's maybe going to run, he'll be able to eclipse 1,200 yards. Maybe he'll get to a few more touchdowns. So maybe he'll be able to get 11 touchdowns rushing. And you can see how these projections changed based on the statistics that I'm putting in. Once again, completely customizable. It's a pretty easy tool to use. The one thing I would suggest is keep an eye out, flag that email, because when you open this up and you start kind of messing around with these projections, it could be easy to get lost and to remember kind of what the originals were. So save an original copy, have a worksheet that you can work and put in your own projections, but these are going to be able to be manipulated by any scoring rules. And let me just go back to Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar Jackson, what we have now is 30 touchdown passes. I think he was originally 24, so I'll put that back in. He's still, I guess even with that, he just dropped behind Patrick Mahomes in the rankings, so I'll resort. But let me show you, again, the scoring mechanism. So most leagues out there at this point, I would say, do 4 points per passing touchdown. But I know there are a lot out there that also do 6 points. They give you the full 6 points per passing touchdown. So let me hit the enter key in here. 6 points for every touchdown thrown for quarterbacks. I'll hit the enter key. Now let me go back to this spreadsheet. And now look at the point totals. You see Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, they were close before. Patrick Mahomes pulls way ahead based on his increase of touchdowns, right? And different quarterbacks will move up and down the chart. You see Russell Wilson kind of flew up that board based on touchdowns and so on and so forth. So, again, it's completely customizable, super easy to use. When you download this, I'm also going to email you an instructional sheet and everything like that. It's going to be super easy. So that's it, just that easy, right? The customizable draft tool, super easy. Even if you don't love computers or spreadsheets, it really is easy to use. And we'll email you as well an instructional sheet that you can print out if you like to work off paper. And you can always watch this video for reference to show you kind of how to work around the spreadsheet. Super, super easy. Once again, all you have to do, put your email address in the form below. Click that submit button, and we'll email you the draft tool and the instruction guide. Super, super easy. And there might even be an incentive waiting for you after you do so. So once again, thank you for the time. Thanks for watching the video. Happy drafting, happy draft preparation, and we'll catch you again soon.